Hi everyone, this is Rachel from StudioUs with another at-home drawing lesson for you guys. Today we're going to try out some chalk pastels and make this really vibrant snake picture. So go ahead and grab your supplies and we'll get started. To start off, you need a blank piece of paper, as well as a drawing pencil, a Sharpie marker, and a large eraser to clear off all your pencil lines. So we'll go ahead and get started with the drawing. I'm going to kind of visualize where the center of my paper is, both vertically and horizontally. And I notice our first shape kind of comes in the middle of that top right section. So I'm going to mark out my top, how far down it comes from the top, how far in it comes from the right. The left side should hit right in the middle of the paper, and we'll mark out the bottom as well. I'm going to bring that top up just a little bit to give room for that eye bump. And then we're going to dot out very lightly, kind of a guide for how we want our shape to go. Get that bump going down from the eye, get the nose in there. And if there's anything I want to change, this is the point where I change it. So I want to bring the chin in down a little bit, curve the back around. And once we've got it how we like it, draw it in. Alright, we've got our head. Time to start working on the body of the snake. So the first thing I'm going to look for is that curve coming in to the left of his head. So I'm going to mark out where I see that, right along the bottom of the head, and sketch that in. That's going to be a helpful guide for the rest of our shapes. Next, I'm going to take in the bottom part of the snake's body so it curves in into his chin, then drops down. We get a little bit of a bump, drops down even further, and starts curving around, kind of creating a little bubble around that first curve we drew in. Once I've got that dotted out, I'll also get the curve for the back of his neck coming off the head. Draw all of those pieces in. So that comes down and touches our little scoop. This one kind of goes around it, curves around to the back of his neck. And then we get a little bridge line for where the neck connects to the body. I'm going to build out some more snake shapes here. So I'm getting the little curve coming out of his belly. Bringing that first line down, noticing that it goes all the way down to the corner of the paper. Bring the second line in right next to it, and then bringing the curve around the back. It kind of comes in, touches the edge of his body, and then comes back up to the top of the paper. So once we've got those dotted out, we can draw them in. Making sure to stay right on your pencil lines. If you go off a little bit, just correct it and erase the extra line. And there we go. So we can add in the mouth. It kind of waves up and down, so it starts all the way back at where his body overlaps his neck, and then kind of goes up, down, and back up. You can also get the nostril and the oval for the eye. We're also going to sketch in a couple little branches, looking at where they start on the snake's head and how far out they go to the side. And we'll get the pupil in as well. Alright, we're going to start drawing in the scales. And what I like to do is actually take my eraser and erase the line underneath where the scales are going to go. And that's going to allow me to still see the line very faintly, but to stack those scales up on there and not worry about clearing out that extra little line later on. So next I'm going to start working down the line, getting every little scale in. And these are just little sideways V shapes. So I'm keeping track of how many there are to help me space out the scales going into the face later. And also looking at the size. Notice that they get smaller down on the nose and bigger as they go down on the back of the neck. From there, I notice we've got one where it doesn't have any scales going in, and then one where we've got 4 scales building off that side one. We skip one and go in again. We've got 3, another set of 3, skipping one to another set of 2. Then we can skip down toward the nose and kind of keep track of how many scales we're adding in and where they overlay to get it looking just right and make sure we're filling up that space. We can also clear out the line along the bottom of the mouth where we're going to get those scales coming in, and sketch in just a few along the mouth. We've got a little erasing step, so all we need to do here is erase the line going through the body. We can clean up any lines underneath the scales if we still have any, but we already cleared that out, so we're good to go. Working with the same process, I'm going to lightly erase anywhere where the scales overlap the lines that we've drawn in for the body. So we'll use those very faint lines as a guide, but we won't have to erase them out later. Once we've got those cleared out, we can start working down each line and building in those scales. Notice that they're still getting bigger and bigger as we work down the snake's body. So these should be the same size or even a little bigger than the scales we have on the face. And when I get to a scale that has them coming off down into the body, I'll just add those in as well and then keep working down. Keep working around the outside of the body here. We can go back and get that patch of scales in the middle later. All the way up and around. And then we'll start getting the curve coming off the back of his neck. Go ahead and finish working down the line, and then I'll go back and get that patch of scales in the center, looking about where they start and keeping track of about how many come off of any given scale. Here we're really just working in sets of 1 or 2. Got a couple patches lower on the body. We can just look at kind of how many there are in each row. So we've got a row of 2 and a row of 4 there. Here we kind of get a row of 4, and then going down a row of 3, and then 1 at the bottom. There we go. So we'll erase out the lines for the body of the snake that we have remaining. Just like we did before, add in those scales. Go ahead and get that body patch. Notice that these scales are pretty big. Just following the pattern we see in the scales, then up along the back to finish it out. All right, to finish this step, we're going to get the curves going down the belly. So these are kind of J shapes coming up from the line and then curving up and flattening out. When we get to a bend, we'll kind of bring these around a little bit, keep scooping them, and then just bring it down. So notice it's kind of helped the shape change directions. One was curving to the left, the other's curving to the right. We've got to another bend, so we're going to switch directions again. Curve down to the left again. Bring that all the way down the body of the snake. That just kind of helps it look like the snake's bending. Alright, we've got a little branch to sketch in, so I'm going to use the lines on the body of my snake to help me figure out where to start. And then just kind of bring it down, waving a little bit to the bottom of the page. To finish out, we've got a few little branches and one nice big leaf. So carefully sketch those in, looking at where they start and end, and where they cross over any objects that we already have drawn in. Curve, and then for the big leaf I'm going to mark where I want that peak to be, and then kind of dot out my wavy line coming down to my branches, and dot out my curved line coming down to the right side of the paper. Once we've got that dotted out, just draw it in. And that's our snake. We'll grab our Sharpie marker, carefully go over all of the pencil lines. Really take your time in this part. Make sure you're being very accurate, especially on those scales. Alright, finishing up the last few scales to finish our Sharpie lines. We'll go ahead and grab our big eraser, clear off all the pencil lines underneath our Sharpie, and get ready to color. So we're going to start with chalk pastels. With these, you always want to go very lightly, so we're going to start with a green. I'm going to lightly go around my edges. Now, one thing I want to make sure I don't do is let my hand rest on the paper, because my hand will pick up all that color on the side and then smudge it everywhere. So I'm keeping my hand floating above the paper as I do this, and I'm pushing very, very lightly. With chalk pastels, it's easy to get a lot of dust. You can see some kind of dripping down from my snake's chin right there. So if you do get dust, don't wipe it off with your hand, just blow it away. So take a deep breath, blow right where you see the dust on your paper, and clear all that off. So we'll fill in these background areas. You can see that I've left a lot of kind of white scratchy space around in my green. We're going to blend that out later and it will smooth out. So make sure you're going very lightly. It's okay to leave little white chalky spots. Those will all go away once we blend it out. Get down in these little dark green corners. There we go. So we're going to take one finger and just softly we're going to rub everywhere where we put that green. And you can see as I rub on there, it's going to blend it out and smooth out the color and take away all that chalky texture. Be careful to only touch where you want it green. As you can see, your finger turns green as you do this, so anywhere you touch is going to turn that color. And once you're all done blending, make sure you wipe your finger off on a tissue or a paper towel or apron or something. Next, we're going to take our light green and we'll do the same process with all of our leaves and stems. So lightly going around the edges and then filling it in. Careful not to put on too much. We just want a light coat. And once we've got that filled in, we'll blend the light green in again. Make sure you've wiped your finger off before you do this, otherwise it'll start turning dark green. Alright, so far so good. We're going to grab a white and work on getting the light spots in on our background. So I'm going to use a little bit more pressure and let that white build up a little heavier on this part. And anywhere I see a light spot, I'm going to color it in pretty heavy with the white and then very, very lightly blend it in. You don't want to blend too much with the white, otherwise it'll just kind of wash away. So looking for all those little light spots. Next we'll go in with our dark green and working in between the white spots, we're going to blend in some dark green to bring those shadows out even more in the background. Alright, background's looking good. We're going to go back in with our regular green. On this big leaf, I noticed that the edges are light green and the center is darker. So I'm going to lightly fill in the center darker. And where I have more of a shadow, I'll put it on a little heavier. Where it's lighter, I'll put it on a little lighter, so kind of off to that left side. And then when I blend it in, where I've put it on lighter, it stays very light and mixes with the light green. Where I've put it on a little heavier, it goes darker. We'll do the same with all of the shadows on the rest of our stems. Just put it on, blend it in, we're good to go. There are some areas on these stems that have a little bit of a highlight, so we're going to take our yellowy tan color and just build up some of that soft yellowy highlight on a couple of the stems where we see it. You can also use that color for the belly of the snake and the color under his jaw. So where we have that nice tan color going. We'll put this on. We'll blend it out. Make sure you've wiped off any green from your fingers before you blend, otherwise your tan's going to turn green. Looking good. If you've got extra dust, you can take a little towel and kind of dab it off. That way we don't get any green in our snake. And if you've got a little bit of green kind of leaking into those scales, chalk pastel is very erasable. So just grab an eraser, clean it off. Make sure you don't swipe your hand over it while you're cleaning off your eraser dust. So we're going to grab our yellow and we're just going to color in all of the brightly colored yellow or orange parts of the snake. We can go ahead and get everything. We'll use this as a base layer and then layer up the darker colors on top of it. And again, keeping it really light so we don't get lots of dust. Once you've got it filled in, go ahead and blend in all of your yellow. Careful not to touch your greens in the background or that'll carry the color in. So we've got a nice base coat. We're going to get the shadows on top of the tan. So we're taking kind of a red-brown and just blending in any shadows we see on the tan belly areas. So I see that there's a brown that kind of comes down on the left side of each of those Sharpie lines in his belly. So we'll go ahead and get those in and just blend them in softly. Very light touch to blend them in. And we're ready to finish up the color on our snake. So we're going to take a golden yellow, and along the sides of the yellow areas, we've got a bright yellow right on the edge, and then kind of a golden yellow transitioning between the yellow and our orange. So I'm going to look for any of the areas where I see that golden yellow, kind of mark out where I want it to stay bright yellow, and then fill in my little buffer area of golden yellow. Notice that I'm not filling in everywhere on the snake, just kind of the space between our bright yellow and anywhere that's orange or red. So again, I outline where I want to keep it yellow, and then give a nice thick color of golden yellow between that space. And we're not going to blend this in yet. We're going to go straight in with the orange. And just like we did with the golden yellow, I'm going to bring it right up to the edge of the gold yellow, and then fill in anywhere I see orange. But I'm not going to color anywhere that I see it being red. This just helps me keep from building the chalk up too thick. Since we've already got the yellow underneath it, it's going to blend very nicely. Now to finish things off, we can go in with our red. Careful along the edges of your scales. Fill in any red spots. These should be pretty well outlined at this point, so it's easy to spot them. Alright, to blend this in, I'm going to start from the golden yellow and work inward toward the darker color. So I always start with the gold yellow, work in, get all the orange, and then get the reds. And once I've blended in a red, I wipe off my finger before I go to the next section. That way I've got a fresh start to blend the color in. So working light to dark, we've got all our colors blended in. Now we can take a nice red-brown, and I'm just going to carefully detail anywhere where I see those dark, kind of brownish red shadows building up in the red areas of the scale. This is just going to give a little bit more depth to our darkest color, add a little bit more of a shadow effect to those scales on the snake. And I'm just very lightly patting on the chalk to kind of blend it out a little bit without smudging it too much. So I'm just tapping my finger onto it. To finish out, we'll put a little white highlight in the eye of the snake. And that'll do it for this one. Hope you guys had fun with the chalk pastels, and we'll see you for the next lesson.